even believe it? What, 6 minutes late? Nice job, Rumble, you freaking morons. But we're here, so relax. The U.S. government is dropping radioactive ticks on we Americans as a bioweapon? What the hell kind of conspiracy theory is this? Maybe it's not. Looks like the proof is it ain't a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy. Here we go with the Mangione circus. It was bound to happen, and it's happening. We knew it was gonna. The Sheep Detectives. The new film, apparently it's good, clean fun, and we're going to talk about it. It's a family film. You're going to want to see it with your kids. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. Oh, man. The Jay Sheldon Show is live on Rumble and YouTube. Finally, took us a little time to get going, but we got going. We're here. Unbelievable. We made it. Okay, we're good on YouTube, and we are good on Rumble, and that's all that matters at the moment, other than the fact that you're here, and thank you for that. All right, Tuesday. Oh, boy. All right, so what is the deal with this dropping boxes of ticks? Dr. Robert Malone, who got in a lot of people's faces, consequently got blocked in a lot of social media platforms. He's come out again, and he is confirming that the U.S. government is dropping ticks, in some cases radioactive ones, on Americans as a bioweapon. Oh, man. Declassified CIA docs prove infected ticks were deployed from low-flying C-130s over the U.S. sugarcane fields under JFK. Oh, yeah. Plum Island, the Army's old biowarfare lab, just miles from Lyme, Connecticut, a place I know well because that's my home state. Not far away from where I grew up. Ground Zero. Radioactively tagged Lone Star ticks, hundreds of thousands released in Virginia in the 60s, which triggered absolutely the Lyme disease explosion. We are still, to this day, some 60 years later, suffering the consequences of this slime ball move from the government. Lone Star ticks weren't even supposed to be here, and suddenly they were everywhere. Along with Lyme arthritis, rickettsia, babesia, and a whole lot more. Coincidence? I don't think so. Malone says absolutely not. This was deliberate field testing of bioweapons using ticks and mosquitoes. Our own government, the United States government that we elected, turned us into lab rats, plain and simple. Millions were made sick from this. Lives absolutely ruined. Doctors gaslighting patients for decades. And the cover-up continues. Heads gotta roll, folks. Wake up, America. This is not conspiracy theory anymore. Not anymore. This is a fact. And we gotta get something done about it. Here is Dr. Robert Malone.
Did we actually use ticks as bioweapons?
Yes, it's actually in CIA documents that have been declassified. For instance, infected ticks were deployed from C-130s flying low over sugarcane fields in Cuba back
my
in the
God.
day under President Kennedy.
My skin is itching.
There is abundant evidence of the testing, field testing of infected ticks and other insects in a variety of settings in the United States and elsewhere. Clearly, USAMRIID was involved, and in particular, the Plum Island facility that had been a biowarfare investigative facility up in Manhattan, Long Island region, and then was transferred over to USDA, was involved in a lot of this research. It also involved infected mosquitoes and deployed infected mosquitoes and a number of other things.
Unfreaking believable what these people think they can get away with. Unbelievable. And now, have you seen the latest? Farmers are finding these boxes that have been apparently placed there or dropped from the sky full of ticks. Infected? Probably. They've done it before. There you go, right there. Dr. Malone saying it is a fact. CIA paperwork guarantees it and proves it. If they were doing it in the 60s, I freaking guarantee you they're doing it today. Could it be what, hantavirus? Not a bad call. Could be. I don't even know if that's possible, but who knows. Wolverine NEETS 2. Wolverine ETS 2, whatever that is. Sorry, Wolverines. Anyway, good morning. Great to have you along. Thanks for popping in. We appreciate that. And hope folks will follow you. Danny, good morning. Gonna watch. Just popped in to say hi. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And Karen, hello there, Karen. And welcome in. Great to have you all along for the ride. Yeah, these boxes of ticks now, just now, that are showing up on farmers' properties, things like that. When are we going to rise up and stop putting up with this crap? We need somebody like a Rep. Tim Burchett on this. He's done great work so far. This is exactly the kind of thing that Tim could do. He could get involved in and get to the bottom of it. I sure hope so. Because something's got to happen. Oh, good old Ms. Spanberger. Speaking of morons and governments that do things you don't want them to do, Spanberger has signed an AR-15 ban. Wait, Jay, I thought this was the United States of America. I thought we had a Second Amendment. Thursday of last week, Virginia's governor, absolute freak of nature, Abigail Spanberger, signed into law a ban on what is so-called assault weapons, which, none on the left or anti-gun rights can seem to define. And all this begins July 1st of this year. A new law going to ban the purchase, sale, and transfer of certain firearms, only the big scary ones. Includes the AR-15s. If you are caught engaging in any of this activity, you will face a Class 1 misdemeanor charge. This particular piece of absolute crap legislation was written by, no surprise here, Democratic State Senator Saddam Aslan Salim. Why do you suppose Saddam Aslan Salim, the Muslim immigrant from Bangladesh representing a part of the uber-lefty Fairfax County in Virginia, would want to disarm us Americans? Why do you suppose that might be? After the bill was passed, by both chambers of the General Assembly. It's beyond me, but it's Virginia. It went to Spanberger back in March. She eventually returned it with suggested amendments that were even more restrictive than what Salim Mohammed bin Mohammed Salim said. Even more. Ultimately, they rejected her amendments and sent the bill back for her signature, and she signed it. The lawsuits began flying before the ink was even dry. The National Rifle Association, federal and state court lawsuits, Second Amendment Foundation joined the NRA in filing a state complaint, and Assistant Attorney General Harmit Dillon retweeted a copy of the legislation, adding, "See it in court." Good. Spanberger just made a whole heap of legal and political trouble on herself after she signed this bill. Not to mention what the state of Virginia is going to wind up paying out to lawyers, probably in the millions and millions, defending themselves, which is indefensible. We have a Second Amendment, goofballs. You don't have a shot. Unbelievable. She is screwed, and I couldn't be happier. I could not possibly be happier. Good on you. No, Maryland, by the way, it did not show up on X because I did not post anything. I didn't have time. Normally, of course, as you know, my Facebook page has been suspended because they're idiots and a-holes, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about over there, and I'm tired of dealing with it. And if it weren't that for my business, my other business, I have some pages that I manage, so I have to keep my main Facebook account. Otherwise, I've got like 3,000 or 4,000 different followers and friends over there, lots of them. I don't care. Facebook has gone beyond the pale. They are completely goofball, lefted out, lefty morons, and they have suspended my Facebook Jay Sheldon Show page. I can't post there. I can't do anything. And they've severely limited my main Jay Sheldon page. So if it were possible, I would delete my entire life off of Facebook entirely, completely. I can't because I still manage some pages for a business that I work for, but I'm working on it. I'm working on moving my management authorities over to other people so that I can get off Facebook completely. I do, however, every Monday through Friday post a promo on Truth Social and on X promoting this morning's show. I did not do that today because I simply didn't have time to do it. So there you go. All right. Let's see. Maryland suspended too. Great. These fucking people, I swear to God. All right. Here we go. The Mangione Circus is just getting started. First of all, these ghouls, and I mean absolute flesh and blood eating ghouls, are celebrating as the judge in the Mangione murder trial has blocked major evidence. We'll tell you about that coming up. But the gun apparently stays in. New York judge ruled yesterday that some critical evidence in Luigi Mangione's murder trial is going to be allowed. But he also ruled that some key items were inadmissible because authorities unconstitutionally searched the accused killer's backpack. To say the least, it's confusing, I know. A search of the backpack when he was captured violated his rights. Don't suppose the rights of the fellow he shot to death on the streets in New York, you don't suppose his rights were violated, do you? Like his right to life? Yeah, okay. So that search of the backpack violated his rights, but a later search didn't? Yeah, okay. Whatever you say, Judge. Here we go again with these judges. During his arrest at a Pennsylvania McDonald's, the judge ruled that some key evidence is inadmissible, and some can still be shown to jurors, including the suspected murder weapon. Judge Gregory Caro, remember that name because I'm sure we're going to be talking about his idiocy a lot. His written ruling posted online ahead of a hearing Monday when he agreed to the defense argument that a search of Mangione's backpack at McDonald's was unconstitutional because it had been moved away from arm's reach. However, he found a subsequent search of the bag at the police station was lawful. What? He also found most of Mangione's statements to police in Pennsylvania would be admissible, except for some made about his alleged fake ID after police read him his Miranda warnings. Absolute madness. The jury will not learn about bullet magazine, cell phone, his passport, his wallet, and a computer chip, totally omitted from the jury. He has become, of course, a lefty hero since he gunned down a father in cold blood in December 2024 because he didn't like that there was a healthcare CEO. Never mind, he'd never met the man. United Healthcare Chief Exec Brian Thompson. He never had any business with the company at all. To the left, the then 26-year-old University of Pennsylvania grad showed true courage. Now, if you don't believe that extremists have resorted to outright demon worship, these disgusting ladies showed up at the courthouse to serve as a little reminder. Just a little language warning here. It ain't pretty, but that's okay because neither are they.
People need to know how much power they have to resist with rights like jury nullification, which is information that's purposely obfuscated from the public, especially because our government and these health insurance companies, they're literally stealing our money and using it to kill us. Like, come on, the American people need to stand up for themselves. It's about time. It's beyond time. Yeah.
I'm arriving late. Can you tell me who you are and why you're here today?
You want to go first? Yeah, my name is Lena, and we've just been court watching all of Luigi's court dates, and we're part of a group called the Manzistas.
Yeah, and we just think he's so cute. How about this one?
I said what I said. I don't give a fuck.
His children are better off without him. They need to learn to not be like their dad and enjoy the blood money, kids.
Enjoy the blood money. His children are better off without him. He's pled not guilty, by the way, to all of the numerous charges against him, both state and federal. Sadly, he doesn't face the death penalty. Otherwise, judge threw out the charges would have brought that into play in a federal case anyway. New York, unsurprisingly, no longer has a valid death penalty, of course. And he could very well spend the rest of his days staring at the inside of a concrete prison cell. However, if so, we'll see how heroic he feels about that in, say, about 10 or 20 years. This trial expected to start in September. Federal proceedings scheduled for January of next year. And meanwhile, these absolute goofballs are going to sit outside of this courtroom because they think he's so cute. And they like what he did. They like the fact that in cold blood, he murdered a husband and a father. They're fangirls for him. Absolute demons. Insane. Insane that we live in a world that includes these kinds of people. However, I couldn't let a whole lot of bad news go on without a little bit of really good news. Judge Pirro, good old Janine, Judge Janine, she went nuclear, and I mean nuclear. Parents may now very well be facing prison time because their kids rioted. I love this lady. I love this lady. Over the weekend, another violent mob of teens taking over a local Washington, D.C. Chipotle restaurant. Havoc, throwing toddler chairs, wrecking furniture, forcing customers to take refuge in a corner of the dining area. Absolute bedlam inside this Chipotle. What's interesting is how similarly dressed all these scumballs were. Makes you wonder exactly how spontaneous any of it really was. We have the New York Post story because that's got a lot of video on it. Take a look. Hang on here. Where are we? Okay, take a look at these pictures from the New York Post's. Look at that. First of all, yes, look at how every one of them seems to be dressed exactly the same way. Tossing, I don't know, what the hell is that? It looks like a desk. A baby? Oh, it's some kind of baby stool. People could be heard screaming in the background as the youths vaulted on top of one another, throwing punches at random. Look at this. Absolute scum. Absolute scum. Unbelievable. There you go. Take a look at this.
Oh my fucking God! Run down! Run down! Oh my God!
Unfreaking believable. Well, guess what? Judge Janine ain't putting up with it. Attorney General, U.S. Attorney, Judge Janine has drawn a hard line in the sand against these lawless teens after this violent outburst at a D.C. Chipotle. It was a takeover of a restaurant by individuals who felt they could get away with it. Well, they're not going to get away with it. Take a look at what good old Judge Janine had to say, and I love it.
These are not harmless gatherings. They are violent and they are disruptive. And you can see from what happened at Chipotle's this past weekend, it was not just violence occurring between individuals. It was simply destruction of property. It was a takeover of a restaurant by individuals who felt that they could get away with it. Well, they're not going to get away with it. And I'm going to tell you how in a couple of minutes. But this terrorizing is going to end. And the message that lawlessness runs the streets is over. The city belongs to law-abiding residents, not roaming mobs looking to make a name for themselves or to contribute to the chaos or violence.
And there you go. She is not putting up with any crap whatsoever. It gets better. She declared, "We are coming for you, and we're coming for your parents." Oh, yeah. Threatening charges and fines up to $500 for all curfew violators as well. And D.C. prosecutor Michael Spence said, in some cases, that office might be able to prosecute the parents who live in Maryland or Virginia if their kids are still in the district without supervision. Pirro joined with the city mayor, Muriel Browser, calling for charges to the district's curfew laws, which have been recently punted by the D.C. Council. Right now, the curfew is 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. weekdays, and on weekends, 12 p.m. to 6 a.m., but the D.C. Council is not willing to deal with this. But she is going after the parents, and that's beautiful. Get them. Abso-freaking-lutely. We are coming after you, and we are coming for your parents. It just don't get much better than that. The primary purpose of government is to protect its citizens and protect our liberty and the property that we own. And too many of our major and many minor cities are failing in this task horribly. We've seen that failure time and time again. How to deal with it? Wish I had a good answer. But frankly, I think finally getting your parents to be responsible for your little thug life action, that might just do something. We can only hope so. We can only hope so. I know Danny was here earlier. She had to pop out, had stuff to do, but I'm hoping you'll be watching the replay because I specifically put this in here for you. If you are looking for another film to take the family to, and I know you always are looking for good, clean fun, got one for you. Apparently, and I can't wait to see this film. It's called The Sheep Detectives, and it is exactly that. They're calling it good, clean fun. Here's an interesting note, though. Good, clean fun with an accidental Christian message. Imagine that. Rather refreshing to be able to watch a children's movie that not only avoids a lot of inappropriate messaging, but also mirrors Christian themes. You got to be a little worried about Hollywood's harmful messaging to children and their entertainment choices they produce these days. But if you watch the trailer for The Sheep Detectives, that looks like something you'd enjoy watching with your kids. Don't want to spoil anything. The movie is about a shepherd who loves his sheep. And he doesn't butcher them, but instead just raises them for their wool, feeds them, gives them medicine, calls them by name, reads them murder mysteries at bedtime. And as the movie trailer shows, this good shepherd, played by Hugh Jackman, by the way, brilliantly, gets murdered. And the sheep take it upon themselves to solve the crime. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. The Sheep Detective has nothing overtly inappropriate for children. No sexual jokes, no scantily dressed women, no LGBT messaging. There's only a little subtle hint at one point. One of the characters may have lived with her boyfriend without getting married. Policemen mention an ex-boyfriend with a criminal record with whom a lady shared a bank account. But chances are probably not many people are going to even notice those facts. They are in there, though. But there's also a murder, so there you go. But The Sheep Detective, which is not marketed as a Christian movie in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what the religious background of the creators of the film, the writers or the director, are. But the story contains some very strong Christian themes. One conversation between a wise ram and a couple of sheep as they walk past a church went something like this, a paraphrased bit. The sheep says, "What's that?" And the ram says, "That's where God lives." And the sheep says, "Who's God?" The ram says, "He's a shepherd, and he's also a lamb, and he's invisible, and he damns things." So the sheep says, "Damn things? Like what beavers do?" And the ram says, "Yes." So God is a shepherd and also a lamb and a beaver who's invisible? And the ram says, "Yes, and on Sundays he becomes bread and they eat him." And the sheep says, "Ah, poor God." Now, that is obviously a rather humorous description of God and the Christian church. It's explained by sheep to sheep. But this was just one-off allusion to the Christian God in the movie. Scripture teaches, of course, that the Lord is my shepherd. Psalm 23, Jesus is the good shepherd. John 10, Jesus, of course, is the true God. John 20:28, and the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. John 1:29. In the movie, Jackman's character, George, is the good shepherd. Unlike the bad shepherd and the butcher in the movie, George doesn't slaughter his sheep, but rather treats them all as if he himself were part of the flock. Mentioned in one of the books, the shepherd belongs to his sheep even as they belong to him. That's in one of the books in the shepherd's library. Even damning is addressed in this movie. Excuse me. Wow, that went down the wrong pipe. God damning people to hell may seem a little dark for sheep and little kids, but even Good Shepherd George, in his last will and testament, passes judgment on people in the town, including calling the butcher and bad shepherd murderers. He might not send them all to hell, but they very quickly fall out of favor, and the sheep and the kids are watching. What does it mean to damn? But to pass judgment on the wicked. God becomes bread, says the ram. That's a rather obvious allusion to the sacrament. Christ offers his body to eat under the form of bread. And it also hearkens to Jesus' words in John 6, "I am the bread of life." But the statement by the ram about God, the shepherd who becomes bread and is eaten by the flock, contrasts a big deal with the bad shepherd who's butchering his sheep for meat. You can see God described by the way the ram is very much like a good shepherd George, whom the flock absolutely loves. And at one point, one of the sheep dies and goes to be with George, just as Christians believe that when they die, they will go to live with Christ. It is a very refreshing film. I strongly encourage you to go see it, especially if you've got kids. Take them along. They will enjoy every minute of it. It is both safe, it is teaching, and no inappropriate messages. Parents, take your kids, go see the Sheep Detective. It's actually almost more important than taking them to church. Not quite, but almost. The Good Shepherd, a really, really cool film. All right. The media is clutching their pearls again, and of course we love it. They are livid. I mean, you can actually see their blood boiling over Trump's acknowledging the Christian foundation of this country. Yeah, I know. Deal with it. It's a fact. America rededicated herself to the foundation of all of our freedoms, that is Christianity, and they are not advocating for a theocracy in any way, shape, or form. They are recognizing the moral framework that underpins natural rights and our republican form of self-government. Second Continental Congress called for a day of humiliation, fasting, and prayer back in May of 1776. Yeah, at the beginning. The impending separation from the crown, as General George Washington stated, this day was set to supplicate the mercy of Almighty God and seek forgiveness for the nation's sins before undertaking what would become the American Revolution. 250 years later, today, President Donald Trump administration had a national prayer and rededication event. The day of rededication ignited a whole bunch of BS from the usual suspects. Framed the event as an alarming attempt to rewrite American history by portraying America as a nation founded in Christianity. Dun, dun, dun. Trump, in the Times, Ruth Graham, Elizabeth Diaz, they write, Trump administration pushes narrative of Christian founding at the rally. The rally aimed at crystallizing the narrative that the nation's founding was an intentionally Christian project, a framing disputed by many scholars. But the problem is, it's not a narrative, babes. The fact is, it's a matter of historical record, if you bothered to actually look. Nevertheless, the Times pivots to the familiar talking point that, in the Times' words, the separation of church and state has long been a bedrock principle of American democracy, cites the First Amendment's prohibiting the federally established church. The irony, of course, is completely lost on the Times. That is, the same generation that prohibited a federally established church is the same generation that proclaimed national days of prayer and thanksgiving and openly spoke about religion as essential to the republican form of government that they themselves had created. You getting that part, knuckleheads? The Times' dispute of our authentic Christian founding is so weak. Their strongest rebuttal comes from historian Joseph Ellis, who declared the idea the founders viewed America as an explicitly Christian nation is nonsensical and dead wrong. Instead, the founders, this moron speaking, were explicitly pushing back against an assumption that persisted through the Middle Ages. The states needed common religious preference to unite people, which is kind of a weird claim, considering founder John Jay wrote in Federalist Paper No. 2, quote, I have as often taken notice that Providence has been pleased to give this one connected country to one united people, a people descended from the same ancestors, speaking the same language, and professing the same religion. Federalist number 2 was a part of a compilation of writings which was meant to explain and to justify the purpose of the United States Constitution. Duh. And now the Times article cites Rachel Laser, who is the president of Americans United for Separation of Church and State. And she told the Times the event showed separation of church and state is under extreme attack. This is her again, bullshit. If Trump really wanted to celebrate what is unique and foundational about America, he'd be celebrating our promise of church-state separation and religious freedom for all. And yet, the founding generation, the same generation that created the First Amendment, did not share this woman's modern understanding of the First Amendment. At the time of the ratification of the Constitution, at least 2 of the original 14 states had religious oaths of office and limited office holding onto Christians and Protestants. You could only hold an office if you were a Christian or a Protestant. In fact, states like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, all had taxpayer-funded churches. Imagine that today. Idiots. The United States, my friends, was not created in a vacuum. It was built by people who overwhelmingly were shaped by their Christian faith. I don't want to hear it. Don't even start with me. All right. FaceTime, I am not an Apple person. I don't own a single piece of Apple equipment, anything, nothing. I got an Android phone. I got a desktop PC, which runs on Windows. And I don't like Apple. I hate Apple. There's nothing about Apple I appreciate. Frankly, I think it's just a big spying machine. However, having said that, FaceTime is pretty cool. It's basically video conferencing. Well, I don't want to give it away. A couple of entities got to know each other on FaceTime. And then the coolest thing happened. These two actually wound up getting to meet each other in person after getting to become friends on FaceTime. This is insane, but it's so beautiful. Watch this.
I know.
Well, after all that meeting and moaning and groaning and howling, the two of them finally got to meet. He's so excited. Look at this. There you go. Look at that. That is cool. Man, imagine that. And how, I always wondered because with our little Shiba Inu baby, Miko, I'm always showing her stuff on my phone. I said, hey, look at this. Look at the doggy. Here's another Shiba. And maybe it's too small on my phone, but it doesn't seem like she actually sees it. So I often wondered if dogs, because I know their sense of colors are very different from ours. But apparently they can. Whether they can see color or not, they can still see it. It is, Karen, it is absolutely awesome. And the way the two of them instantly got along and were having such a good time when they finally met in person, that is, yeah, look at that. That's crazy. Gotta love it. All right, friends, we're done. Thanks so much. Please, if you want, you can contribute to the show using our PayPal link. It's in our description. Also, our great sponsors, Blackout Coffee, Patriot Mobile, they're all down there. Go buy something. It helps the show, too. And by all means, please follow and subscribe, whether you're watching us on Rumble or YouTube. We appreciate that very much. And we will be back again tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of the Jay Sheldon Show. Thanks.